Hey there, Alex Kidman. Today taking a quick look at this, the Belkin Boost Charge Pro 3-in-1 magnetic charging stand Qi 2. Heck of a name there. And the Qi 2 is the really interesting thing here because Belkin's done this kind of 3-in-1 stand, which as you can see has a phone charging plate, an Apple Watch charging plate, and as you might just be able to make out at the base there, there's another charging plate down there. And the idea is pretty simple. You throw a phone on there, you throw an Apple Watch on there, and you throw some other device. I mean, they're kind of tilting it towards AirPods, but theoretically you could actually charge anything down there. What makes this one interesting is it's one of the first products to come to market with support for the Qi 2 standard. And if you're not familiar with Qi 2, it's basically the hybrid love child of Apple's existing MagSafe standard, because they sit on the Wireless Power Consortium, and a slightly faster charging rate. So original Qi is up to 5 watts only as per the standard. I'll get into that in a minute. Qi 2 supports up to 15 watts and has the potential to perhaps support more in the future. But right now, 15 watts. Now, as a device, this is an interesting one. There's a little bit of future-proofing here, sort of, with Qi 2, although there's a catch there, which I'll get to, making this much more, if it wasn't already obvious by the Apple Watch charger bit, a play for existing Apple iPhone users. So let's get into it. So the design is pretty simple. You've got a fairly heavy base here. You've got your 3 charging plates. It's important to note that the only adjustable part here is the phone charging plate. You can tilt it through a full 90 degrees, as you can see there. The watch charging plate does not do that, and the main bar doesn't do it at all. It's made of at least 75% post-consumer recycled plastic, which is nice to see. Slightly less nice to see is that the charging cable at the back is fixed. I really would have preferred if that was a replaceable cable, because obviously if the cable frays or breaks or gets damaged in the future, yeah, this bit's kind of useless unless you're really handy with a soldering iron and a bit brave to go with it. Now, down the other end, if I bring this up, I just didn't bring it into shot because, well, cables are kind of messy. We have actually a USB-C cable and an included 36-watt charger. Now, that's nice to see because I suppose at least if this dies in the interim, you can still use the charger for charging just about anything, actually. 36 watts is kind of handy. So how well does it work? Well, to do that, I'm going to need to plug it in, of course. Trust me, there's a plug down here, and you'll see that because, in fact, the light just went on there. So, for example, if I drop an iPhone, this is an iPhone 15 Pro, onto it, it pretty quickly will recognize, hey, I'm plugged in. Now, this particular phone is fully charged. I can tilt the angles as I feel the need. And of course, it also, if you turn it sideways, supports the whole standby mode of iPhones. So relatively soon, as you can see there, yep, it's turned itself into a clock if you like that kind of thing. It'll also, of course, support, I've got plenty of handy props here, charging AirPods or other Qi devices or other standard Qi devices. And you can also throw an Apple Watch on there. Now, one thing I have noticed is that the watch charging plate, and this is kind of common for these tilted charging plates, doesn't hold the watch terribly well. Look, I'll kind of demonstrate, because what can happen all too easily is it can tilt. If you just kind of put it on there like that. If you're really, really careful with the placement and you don't bump it at all, it's fine. But it's kind of slippy in that sense, especially, of course, for the Ultra, because that's a much bigger watch. It doesn't stop it charging. It still works. It's just maybe not as aesthetically nice. So let's talk about charging. So 15 watts charging is, of course, nice and quick. But there's kind of 2 catches here. Now, you might be thinking for a start, well, hang on, haven't I heard of lots of other phones doing much, much faster wireless charging than just 15 watts? Well, you have. There are brands out there that have put chargers up to, I think off the top of my head, 50 watts wireless charging is possible on some models. The thing there is that those are terribly specific, generally single brand, single model chargers. If you can't get that charger, or if that charger breaks on you, you can't charge at those rates. Qi 2 is a standard, which means all devices with Qi 2 support will be able to support whatever the Qi 2 standard is at the time. Obviously, depends on the hardware and so on. The challenge there, though, is at the moment, the list of Qi 2 compatible devices, well, they've all got Apple in front of them. It's iPhones as far as the eye can see. It's basically the iPhone 12 upwards, although the mini ones don't do the full 15. They only do 12 watts of Qi 2 charging. And then right now, at the time of recording this, nothing Android-wise. It's kind of widely tipped that the Pixel 9 might include it, but we won't know that until later in the year. So right now, the only thing that can take advantage of the faster charging speeds is an iPhone. So the future-proofing for this particular device, maybe not quite there. I'm actually testing another Belkin device, which might be a little bit better for that, but I'll get to that when I actually do that review. Qi 2, though, is not just about faster wireless charging, it's also about that magnetic attachment. And this isn't just so that I can do silly things, it will pop off eventually, of course, not just so I can actually tilt it at whatever angle I like. It's also to do with the alignment of those magnets at the back of the phone, because that actually enables a more efficient charge. That's part of what means it can do the 15 watts, but also it means you get less heat. And I've certainly hit this, for example, charging in my car. It's got a wireless charging plate, but over time, what happens there is the phone heats up, and the phone actually detects, hey, I'm getting too warm. It stops charging because it gets too hot. And Qi 2 should minimize that. It's not necessarily going to eliminate it in every circumstance. The rest of the car can get hot. You can have other inefficiencies at play. But it should minimize that because the wireless charging coils align themselves, theoretically, perfectly for optimal charging. Now, this doesn't mean, of course, that you can't charge other devices on it. Obviously, you've got the other plates. I should note that both the charging plate down here and the watch, not that you're going to charge anything but a watch on it, are actually, there it goes, tilting again, are actually only Qi 1. So they're only 5-watt chargers where this is 15 watts. But you can actually charge other devices on it because Qi 2 is backwards compatible. The trick there, though, is that you've got to tilt it into its flat orientation, and I've had this phone lurking in the background. It's just an older Galaxy Fold, but it will actually, if I get the alignment right, you can see there, it has actually said, yeah, look, I'll start charging. It's just that as I can see on the screen, and you probably can't, it's, because of the way the light's reflecting, it's actually going to take quite a while to charge at 1 hour, 42 minutes until full, and that's because it's only charging at that 5-watt rate. So should you buy the Belkin Boost Charge Pro 3-in-1 magnetic charging stand? Look, Qi 2 is nice to have. It's a nice evolution of an existing Belkin design, but this is an iPhone-specific design, really. I mean, the Apple Watch plate is never going to be useful for Android users, even when Qi 2 Android phones come along. It's a nice device, it's well built, the power supply is good, and it does what it says on the box, but at $229, it's also kind of expensive, and you do have to keep that in mind. Anyway, that's my take on the Belkin Boost Charge Pro 3-in-1 magnetic charging stand. Got any questions? Anything you'd like to know? Hit me up in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe.